My grandpa signed the beach condo over to me 6 months before he died. He did it quietly, the way he did most important things. We sat at the small kitchen table in his apartment, the ocean visible through the window, like it was trying not to interrupt. He slid the papers toward me and said, almost apologetically, "I want you to have something that's just yours." I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. In my family, asking why was usually a mistake. I just nodded and thanked him and promised I'd take care of it. Of him, of the place, of the memories that already lived there. When he passed, I told my parents. They were composed, sympathetic in the practiced way wealth teaches you. When I mentioned the condo, my mother smiled, a soft, almost indulgent smile, and said, "Well, that was generous of him." That was it. No questions, no concern, no pushback. I should have known then. 2 weeks later, I was at the condo sorting through boxes when a realtor knocked on the door. He was polished, cheerful, holding a clipboard like a shield. Behind him stood a couple in linen shirts and expensive sandals, already peering past him into the living room. "Private showing," he said brightly, like it explained everything. I didn't invite them in. My phone buzzed before I could speak. My mother's name lit up the screen. I answered because some habits die hard. "You don't need to make this difficult," she said gently. "Your sister does more with property like that. You know that." I looked at the couple. They were already stepping inside, shoes still on, eyes scanning the walls like the place was a product brochure. "I didn't put it on the market," I said. A pause. Then the whisper, lowered as if the walls might hear, "You don't need this. Your sister does." There it was, not cruelty, not anger. Just a statement of fact as they saw it. The family equation reasserting itself. The way it always had. I didn't yell. I didn't tell them about the morning's grandpa, and I drank coffee on the balcony. I didn't remind her that my sister already had 2 houses and a trust fund and parents who never questioned her place at the center. I said, "I'll call you back." I locked the door after the realtor left, confused, annoyed, but not apologetic, and sat on the couch for a long minute. The condo felt smaller than it had an hour earlier, like it was already being erased. Then I grabbed my keys and drove inland. The county records office sat between a tax preparation storefront and a shuttered diner. Nothing about it suggested drama. The building looked like it existed to make things boring on purpose. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed. A line of people waited quietly, holding folders, envelopes, proof. No one here cared who my parents were. No one cared who I was. That helped. When it was my turn, I slid the paperwork across the counter and asked, calmly, for the title record. The clerk nodded, typed, and turned the monitor slightly away from me as the system loaded. At first, her face didn't change. Then her eyebrows pulled together. She leaned closer to the screen. She didn't speak right away. I waited. She clicked again. Scrolled. Stopped. Then she froze, not theatrically, not with a gasp, but with the unmistakable stillness of someone who has just realized something important doesn't match what they were expecting. "Just a moment," she said, and stood up. She returned with a supervisor. They looked at the screen together. The supervisor nodded once, slowly, and said, "That's clear. Clear." The word landed like something solid. The clerk turned back to me, professional but no longer neutral. "The property is fully transferred to you," she said. "Recorded and uncontested. There's no authorization for any listing or showing by anyone else." I felt something shift, not relief exactly, not joy. More like alignment. As if something that had been bent for a long time had finally been allowed to straighten. She printed copies. Stamped them. Slid them across the counter. "There's been an inquiry," she added carefully. "But it doesn't hold." I thanked her. My voice sounded like my own. Outside, the sun was harsher than I expected. I sat in my car with the papers on my lap and didn't start the engine right away. I thought about calling my parents. About explaining. About finally having proof. I didn't. That night, my mother called. Her tone was different. Controlled, cautious. She said there must have been a misunderstanding. She said they were only trying to help. She said family shouldn't get caught up in technicalities. I listened. When she finished, I said, "The title is clear." Silence stretched on the line. Not angry silence. Calculating silence. "Well," she said finally, "we'll talk later." We didn't. The condo didn't suddenly become peaceful. The family didn't apologize. My sister didn't reach out. Nothing wrapped itself up neatly. But something important stayed with me. For the first time, I hadn't needed permission to keep what was given to me. I hadn't needed to perform gratitude or justify space or argue for worth. A neutral system had looked at the facts and said, yes, this is yours. And that clarity, dry, unromantic, bureaucratic, was enough. I went back to the condo the next weekend. I opened all the windows. I sat on the balcony with coffee and let the ocean do what it had always done. The place was still mine. And this time, I knew it in a way no one could smile away.